Well, Intuition Incubators, I have a surprise for us today. I am fresh back from Peru, Machu Picchu, and I have with me today two of the three spectacular guides that I had with me. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited to bring this episode to you is because what I learned about the Inca culture is the foundation and how they practice is exactly what we do here on the Intuition Incubator, learning how to live from the inside out, honor our energy, and remember who we are. So I have with me Danny and Harvey. Danny is, in addition to a guide, a shamanic healer, and Harvey, just a tremendous keeper of wisdom, culture, morology, architecture. So much for us to share with you in this episode today that I think is really going to deepen your practice, help you understand some fundamentals, and give us all some things to work with. So without further ado, welcome Danny and Harvey.
Hello there.
I wonder if we could just jump off by starting with having you guys say, if you could answer the question, what is the foundation of the worldview of your culture? What would you say that worldview is in a few words or a feeling, or how would you express that?
Go ahead, Harvey.
Well, here's the thing, Abby. I think it's very important to understand how the world perceives history, and not in a point of judgment, but usually into the Western mind situation. Most of the New World, the so-called New World societies, were, I guess, non-study in depth. They were taken as developed, not as developed as the ones in the Old World. They were probably even taken a bit more like even though we would like to call that the spiritual realm today, but they were taken more into the mystical sense of interpretation. So therefore, they were not taken seriously on the advantage of the technology development in Europe at the same time. But I think that that's not fair, because ancient societies, not just within Peru, but within the whole three Americas, were very developed on their own context. To start with, I believe that we have lost the link between what nature and of course the respect for nature and technology should be keeping. Nowadays, it's just all about maybe just into the senses of consume more than rather than preserving nature. I think that taken from that perspective, most ancient civilizations, you rather calling Mayans, Aztecs, Olmecs, even the North American tribes and the Incas themselves, were more protective of the environment, but yet at the same time were sophisticated and advantaged in their own senses of mathematics, architecture, astronomy. So I believe that the world still yet to be educated about that knowledge. And then once they get that knowledge, they probably are going to be putting Incas, Mayan, Aztecs to the pair of Egyptians, Sumerians, and every other society. Nevertheless, I'm just talking from my side. Yet there is also the Chinese culture, which is not I guess probably I'm just talking from my own side, but most of the schools will go into like the world's history in of course Greece, Rome, Sumerian, but they're not really going in depth into the the Indian culture or the Chinese culture, which in my mind were brother societies to the Incas, were brother societies to the Mayans and Aztecs. They were all part of one single thing. So I guess then that is my point of view about the Incas. They need to be known, and I think that's our homework as guides, as people from Peru, to tell the world about how great our societies were back in the day. Yeah,
I love that, and it explains, a lot of your passion about being a guide, and and to your point, Western culture, it's like we've been so conditioned to believe in science, in this old Newtonian science, and we're just barely trying to accept some of the modern science principles, which of course have been known for thousands and thousands of years by ancient wisdom societies. So it's fascinating to me, we're having to unlearn all of this stuff, our conditioning, and you guys are just brought up in it, saturated in it. So yeah, thank you for that. Did you want to add anything, Danny?
Yes, actually, it's a very, very deep question that I ask myself, not just the historical side, but as well, especially the spiritual side, asking to my masters, asking to not just masters in the spirituality, people who live in the highlands, asking about where is the origin, things we know in the history. They mention even not just one human creation, even chroniclers, the Spaniards who arrived here, mentioned that Incas people believe that we have different eras, and actually we are living in the fourth one. We also mentioned that in certain part of the creation, in the legends and the myths we have here, they were also even giants, and it depends how far back we want to go. But for the Incas specifically, because there are many other groups and tribes around here, the origin of the knowledge comes from a man and a woman who emerged from the waters of Lake Titicaca. That for them is one of the most important sacred places, and they say they came from the inner part of the world, bringing knowledge, technologies that humans at that point we didn't have yet. And these are considered the children of the sun. So we could be, depending on our perspective, how old we can go about where is the origin of all the beliefs and technology we have. In my personal perspective, it's too old that actually we cannot even understand the surface of these kind of things we know now.
It's not even understandable. That's what you're saying?
We cannot understand totally, but I think it comes from very, very ancient times that we cannot even say it's 20, 30, or 40 or 100,000 years ago. I think it's much, much older, and it's related with other parts of the world as well.
And there's a deep respect for that, right? Like in your culture. And you spoke about this a lot, about what happened when the Spaniards came in, and what did happen. Like, maybe you can just share a little bit about that with us. How did that end up going?
Well, I think then if we have to be very real on that, I think the world's history is a little bit unfair on what it tells or what it suggests it happens along Peru. Starting on the premise that everything we think we know about the Incas is only the Spanish version of their own story. Yet we have a couple of native chroniclers acknowledged to be like the ones who tells the truth from the local perspectives. Those books, which are published around the 1600s, they have to go through the approval of the missionaries who came to teach these people how to write and read. I hope I'm making my point, but if you have somebody who's supervising on how you narrate your story and how you tell your story, and they probably scratch away pages in where they say like, oh, you don't want to tell this, or you better tell it in the other way so the people in Europe might understand it. It's still talking about a twisted version of history in where, sure enough, it's not a full comprehension of what it happens along this place. In fact, I think the real history is still being alive within the native communities along the mountains and even on the Amazon, where people are still keeping practices, not only on rotation of crops, not only on practices to study the weather conditions, but in the whole ritualistic mind about sharing their own with God, and in sharing their own with Mother Earth, in where they need to coexist as one single thing rather than two separate elements. So I think that most people portray that the Spaniards came along and they changed the people's souls, but that's non-truth. In fact, as evidence of that during my own presentations, and I hope, Abby, you felt it as well, we like to say how they both merged together to create one single unity of beliefs, in where local people of today are still going to church. Like right now, we're celebrating Easter, yet we have the celebration of the Incan festivities within that. I mean, I think that we were convinced within our minds that the same God that Europeans worship as Jesus or as God the Creator is the same Incan God that we worship still today. And this God has so many different names. I guess the most popular one is Apu Illatexe Huiracocha Pacha Yachachi, which can be gaining more additions to the name within different societies, different territories, yet it's still referring to the same creator God that gives life to us. Somehow, if you think about this, I always love to state that we were never conquered by the Spaniards. Instead, they just came over and took advantage of what they needed at the time. Gold and silver, they took as much as they wanted. They possessed a few of the land, but the culture is still present and alive. So I think the Incas are still present, but mixed with the Spanish Western culture, with Catholicism, and with everything else together. Yeah.
You guys really, in your presentations, really brought through that the foundations of the Inca culture and this idea of God. I mean, Danny, you would talk about that a lot in terms of Mother Nature and Pachamama. And can you speak to that a little bit? What is the belief about?
There are many different ideas, many different concepts, but I think Incas went through a very interesting evolution in the religious terms, since the concepts that we can call from the Western concepts kind of original monotheism, where it was the idea of the big spirit, for instance, then get into the process of totemism, shamanism. But the Incas themselves, in terms of religion, they end into the maximum concept of the metaphysical idea of what the universe, God is, into a concept that we can call now a negative theology, because we actually try to think that the mind, our mind, the human mind, it's too small to understand actually the real concept of God. But what we can understand from the human perspective so far is that God is uncommunicable, unnameable, unspeakable, impossible to get with the senses we have, with the limitations we have as a humans, except when we let the inner senses to open. And then we have the chance to experience no thinking, no beliefs, no ideas, just the pure expression and the pure connection with God.
That's quite a feat, isn't it? to get out of that conditioning, right? To get out of the conditioning and to be one with some power that we can't even begin to name or touch or see or feel. And a lot of your guiding us on the tour was giving us little opportunities to be able to do that and to be able to understand that. And in fact, one of the first things you said, I think, was you taught us what the introduction is, like how you say hello. In what is the meaning of that? What do you say, and what's the meaning of how you greet one another?
The local philosophy can be reduced to two words, and we call it agin causai. Agin is a very powerful word. I'm talking about a language that goes farther than the normal Incas were speaking, I mean the farmers, but actually was more metaphysical, was more deeper in terms of the scientists, and even deeper in terms of the religious people. So agin could be mean just hi, but actually the deeper knowledge, the deeper contained in this word is consciousness, awareness, reflection of the sunlight, and invite you. Causa means exist. So the philosophy is exist with awareness, with consciousness, in a way that you can actually be correct. And you can do correct things to get correct results. That would be the thing. And Agin Puncha is the normal greeting here that tells you the light of consciousness, the reflection of the sun, the awareness be with you, which is an invitation, a very deep invitation to actually be connected with the light and be connected with the universe in every single moment.
And that's how you just say hello to each other. Like that's how you greet one. Like to me, that's like that's like it. It's like, okay, well, mic drop now. Like that's all of it. Were you going to say something, Harvey?
Yeah, I think the real deal about Quechua, the Inca language, is such a depth, like a deep language. I'm sorry, then allows so much like interpretation, so many different interpretations, and so much to be captured by the speaker as well, like by the person who is listening to it. We always got this discussion with Danny, and Danny is really into this. He's a real studier of that particular sense of how many different versions of Quechua we can handle along the local culture even today. I think that the very keen foundation for every society is language, but if you don't know how to communicate things, if you just simply to use the term, you speak just words rather than communicating something that comes from deeper inside of yourself, then it's just empty words. Somehow, Quechua allows you to have different versions of conversation, different levels of communication by using words which can be sounding the same, but just based on your own interpretation, they will allow you to connect in different levels. In fact, when I'm talking about language, I always love to ask this to my guests about the meaning of the word in English, Spanish, or any other language, about the word secret. What does the word secret really means? And most people believe secret is something that you're keeping for yourself, something that you're not really telling. Yet for us locals, a secret is something that you share. But it's something you share only with the ones you really trust. After all, you never keep a secret for you. You end telling a secret. So some local people here, they will understand the actual concept of secret a bit more close to like one spell, like you're casting a spell by telling those words, like you're sharing something that is special and powerful, then people will receive it in different levels. For instance, if I have to tell you a secret, the secret for us in the Inca culture is that when one of your children falls off into a land in where we never made an offering, a place which is wild, their souls will get scared and they'll be just trapped. So the babies, like little kids, will get sick. So a secret is that you will grab a bit of the soil there and make the baby eat that dirt, the soil. So they will actually turn the spirit of that boy back into their bodies. In some other places, rather than doing that, they will collect a little insect which is going around and they'll put it on the top of the head and cover that with a hat, allowing the spirit of that little boy not to go away, but instead to return back to the body of this person. So those, for instance, are secrets. Yet you are communicating something. It's just a matter of what do you really believe? What are you really accepting to believe with those words? So language, I think it's one of the richest things around, and we study Quechua only in the basis about communication, but yet, again, Danny has a much deeper knowledge on this, about how special and important the language is for the healers, for the actual high-class people versus the farmers. There's different levels of languages. So I think that's a whole different world to be a study about the Inca culture and the language they use to communicate each other.
Yeah. So a secret, from what you're talking about from a healing perspective, is an offering almost, when you're saying, here's this child who has lost part of their soul or is in danger in some way. The secret is an offering to help that child come back?
Well, not quite. I think I'm just using the sample to make you understand what the actual, not the actual action, but what I'm offering you, that cast, that spell that I'm telling you, then, I mean, whatever you have to do, that will be taken as a secret, but I'm sharing it rather than keeping it for myself.
Right.
So when I'm making reference to how we interpret words, if we take that word secret, people will think that that's something that you're supposed to be keeping for yourself. Yet for the locals here in Peru, it's instead something that you mean to share. In Quechua, it's like something you mean to give away, but with the power, just not just like talking something. It's just like sharing something else.
Sharing.
So yeah, that would be the actual concept of what I'm just trying to say. What I mean is, the language has different ways, different levels to be interpreted,
Yeah. And yet what it really makes me think of, I don't know why it makes me associate to this, but this idea of like sharing and giving, and I remember, Danny, you talked about, here are 3 things that I have to think about before anything comes out of my mouth. What were those? Do you want to share those?
Actually, it is inside of the alien cause I exist with awareness. There is 4 important things that we have, and it's alien yuyai, which means think with awareness. Then the next natural step is that you start feeling with awareness, because the emotions are the catalyzer of the thoughts. Then alien rimai, that means speak in a conscious way, because the words are capable to create realities. And then the natural thing is alien yankai, which means action with awareness. So it's a whole process that if, for instance, you want to heal somebody, you want to change behaviors of the people, you don't do exactly in the behaviors, but you go deeper back into the words. They speak to themselves, and they speak to the others and to the families, because that's creating the reality. But even farther back to the emotions that they are present in the words, and even to the origin, to the beginning of the creation, which is the thought. So it's a natural process of act with consciousness, starting from the thoughts and the emotions and the words and the actions. That's the natural process, and the 4 important, let's say, ways to create reality in complete awareness and consciousness.
So first you have to say, is what I'm about to say harmful to me? Is what I'm about to say harmful to anyone else? Is what I'm about to say harmful to higher consciousness? And if I get a go light on all of those, I can speak it, and otherwise I need to zip it.
Well, there is a very old statement, I don't remember who said that, but actually the mouth speaks what the heart feels. So this is very important to know, recognize, and manage, transmute the emotions first.
And you also stated, think with your heart, right?
This is a way to take our brain and our emotions symbolically, and we say, if you start thinking with the heart and feeling with the mind, it is a time when you start looking the whole perspective. Basically, it's an invitation to do a very simple thing. Just one part of your brain, the emotional, and the other one, the logic, all together. So you have the logic thinking, the emotional part, catalyze everything you are thinking, and then you are in balance. So it's an invitation to balance, harmony, and an invitation to live in a very complete control of what you are creating by yourself, without blaming outside or others.
I love that. Totally in balance. Think with your heart, feel with your mind, and now you've combined and you're in balance. Harvey, I'm kind of curious because you said to me a couple of times when we were there, you said, oh no, I never took the healer route. I chose not to do that. That's a lot of responsibility. And I think you even told me that when you were young, you would, I don't know if you said see ghosts or see things, and you kind of actively suppressed those impulses. Say more about that choice, because obviously Danny went in the complete other direction.
I do respect people who's got that call and attend to call. The way I portray this is, I told you before, one of my uncles is a healer, one of my aunts was a healer. And I learned from them that there's a lot of giving onto it. And so the way my excuse is always that I'm way too selfish to give away part of my life in order to do follow the path. I don't know. I just simply probably am not ready for it. I'm always saying, and whenever you're ready, the master will come out, or whenever you're ready, the universe will make everything happen. It's just that I've seen the door open so many times within my own face, but I'm always going like, let me think a little more about it. Now, I guess that there's a lot of fear on that as well, because when I started seeing ghosts, I was probably around like maybe just like 14, 15 to 16. And sure enough, it was a timing where I was like researching, like doing a lot of research about what in my mind, what I wanted to know at the time was the truth. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to gain enough knowledge that I can actually discuss the origin of life, I guess the beginning of God. And I think all of those things that usually teenagers either think or don't think about. However, I was going too deep into that, then I probably just scratch surfaces and I shouldn't. And then shouldn't I start seeing ghosts and presences all the time? I got this story because my mom is super Catholic. So the room where I was like sleeping, I always told her like, I can't sleep. I have nightmares all the time. I hear things, I see things. So my mom being Catholic, she was going to gather holy water from different churches. And the day she was sprinkling water around my bed, then I was sleeping fine. So it was like, I don't know if it's something psychological, if I was haunted by something evil, I don't know. But anytime those days that my mom was sprinkling water, and I don't even know if that was really holy water or just any water, she was telling me that it was holy water, but then I was sleeping fine. But the day she was not doing that, then I was actually having nightmares all the time. So then I decided to switch rooms with my sister. I said to my mom, like, I can't stand that room. So she says, what about if you switch with your sister? So then my sister went to my room, I went to her room, and she slept fine, but I'm still having the same issue. So that's kind of when I decided not to quit home, because I guess so many factors, but I decided to move away. And I still seen ghosts, but rarely. But I just decided to wipe it all with some alcohol. I was starting to drink a little more, and I was like numbed enough to go to bed, and I was not like feeling or hearing or getting anything else. I think that was my move away from it. Yet, even later on in life, when I was probably like 28, 29, I start seeing again, and I guess being more mature, I kind of like go to these spirits or souls or ghosts, tell like, what do you want? I mean, what do you looking for? Why are you looking to come with me? But I never got an answer, to be honest. The last time I did experience that, I was living probably like about 3 blocks away from a local cemetery, and I never realized that till that night. So of course I got somebody which is literally like watching me like this far away from my face. When I woke up, I see the face. I never met this person, never seen. It was like a light-bearded person. And I asked him, like, what do you want? Or what are you looking? Do you want me to do something? And he just smiled and then disappears right there. And then within my own mind, I said to myself, like, why am I even asking this? Like, I'm not going to help any. Like, why am I even daring to tell somebody? What about if this spirit or ghost comes back? So I said, like, okay, in my mind, I said, like, sorry, even though I asked you, please just forget it. Let it go. I'm not going to do anything. But I think that's the last time I recall that I had this experience. Although within my job, we visit hotels which are old, haunted properties, where obviously you can feel the presence just by walking inside. I don't know. I mean, it's just a matter. Then again, I don't feel like I'm ready to give away myself. You know, like I'm still like my alcohol. That's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to quit it.
It's funny because you basically said you were in search. You were wanting to get answers.
Yeah,
and they showed up. You wanted to see everything, know everything. And then you're like, hold off. I don't want to know that. Yeah.
Well, I guess that having a Catholic mother, I'm not complaining. I love my mom, but I think that having that and the Catholic education, it always put like restraints on your own minds. Like even though you can actually see things or you can actually feel things, sometimes that little logical part is still like stopping you and make you question beyond of just like feeling. I think that I need to do what Danny is suggesting. Start thinking with my heart rather than with my mind and try to forget about my logical questioning about it and just start feeling it, and probably then I'll gonna merge. But again, I still need to find the moment, I guess, for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I so relate to it, really. I mean, I know that the journey so much for me, and I'm going to toss this to you, Danny, in a minute to talk about, has been, really just unwinding that conditioning. And I'll be in the middle of ceremony and something will happen and I'll say, this is what's coming up. And then in the next sentence, I'll say, but maybe I just made that up, and the shaman I'm working with will always say, of all the things that you could have come up with or said or whatever, how could that be made up? But that trust, right, of what you're seeing or what you're experiencing with our conditioning is really, really hard. But I'd love for you to kind of riff on this for a little bit, Danny, and talk about maybe your journey too, because obviously you went dove head in this journey.
Well, I think it's natural for every human being. There is no human being who cannot start a natural thinking process where you think it's real, it's not real. It's even worse when you start hearing voices, because probably immediately we think about there is something wrong in my mind and that must be a disease, or psychologists, family would say exactly the same. So I think it's a natural internal fight to believe or not believe how real things are, how we can really either communicate or not with the other part of the universe, the non-physical part. We have a name for that. We call it the Hawapacha. Hawapacha is the things that does not exist anywhere. It's not real. It's not physical. It doesn't go with the physical rules. And as well, we have the Kaipacha, which is this place, the place where we are. And actually, we have certain places considered sacred called Waka, where Wa means the non-physical part, Ka, the physical one. And this is the point where the physical and non-physical encounters. So I have to go through many things in the preparation. My mother, who actually is a healer as well, she put me through many things to go through this natural thing. One of them is I spent a whole week in a completely dark room in the house for almost a week without nothing else than drinking water, chewing some coca tea, and burning some incense. So the brain, after not actually getting information for many days, start trying to, it's getting this is a state of starvation. It's trying to create natural things as well. And every single smell of the incense brings you backwards to your thoughts, to the things you had through your time, memories. But the crazy thing is that you start looking memories not just from the past, but also memories from the future. So the brain gets into a point where it's not capable to perceive the truth as we know the truth should be understood, because we have as in being the hardware, the brain, we have a system rolling around. It's what Harvey was telling a Catholic mother or a shamanic mother or whatever group society we grew up, conditioned us to observe reality. But this kind of little things going on actually make you break completely all these systems and make you understand that there are more things the brain cannot understand completely. And little by little, I think you start comprehending that you are not crazy. And it's very important, especially for some of our brothers and sisters, that they are starting in the spiritual realm. They are not crazy. They are okay. It's going to go little by little, step by step. Don't get scared about anything. Allow themselves to feel with the internal senses. And we don't think we choose the time, but the universe chooses the correct times. So it's just about let things happen. And the most important thing, because sometimes I'm called by parents who are worried about the children, because the children are capable to see things that they not exist in reality as we know reality, and they ask how we can do it to close the third eye or whatever it's called in different cultures. And we do that kind of things. But the most important thing to teach the parents is that kids are okay. They are starting, maybe they are more awake in terms of the spiritual realms. And yes, we can suppress, or they can teach them to suppress all this contact with the other side. But in the time when should be correct, it's going to come. And it's not bad things coming to you. It's actually gifts and things that you use when the universe tell you to do it. So chill out, relax, and accept.
But it could be bad energies as well, right? I mean, those exist. So how do you know what they're dealing with?
Well, here's one discussion that Nani always got about that particular sense. I think that we both agree that even though there is such a sense of evil or negativity, it's mostly relying on the actual interpretation. I'm always love to say that Incas didn't understood the concept of evil, yet we have Quechua words that represents evil. But what is the context? I mean, like what is the judgment about what is wrong and what is right? I guess then if we have to study the Inca society only as the Inca society, we have no clue about their whole world interpretation because we lost a lot of that by the condemned and Catholic Church has brought into them. I guess then if you really think about the evil path of black magic or negativity, like what does it really mean? I'll get to this point. When the Spaniards came on and they seen whatever the Incas offered, whatever the Incas were doing for connecting, they just labeled that as witchery, as witchcraft work, and shouldn't have therefore is evil, is negativity. Yet for the Incan perspective, that is all fine. And the same exactly story happens with all of different kinds of concepts of connection with the divine, other societies, including Wicca, including, I don't know, like consulting spirits, all of that, it's mostly judged by Catholic Church as the left path. I don't know. I mean, I'm so sorry to say that because I'm a lefty. I'm always being upset about people telling that the left path is the wrong one and the right path is the right one. So I guess I'm starting on the premise. Why did we choose to do so if both are communicated in our brain? I mean, it's like both sides are connected. So I don't know. So I said that we have this discussion with Danny because Danny and I has several times sat down to discuss about what is really that sense that we believe is evil or wrong. So I guess we still have no answer, yet the question will remain, I guess even we'll go upon ourselves. So I don't know, Danny, if you have something to tell us about it.
We do have actually a left path and a right path as well in the Andean concept of shamanism, which is not called shamanism in real strict words. It's more like the healing things, but not in a sense that it's bad or good or left and right. Actually just means two different separate things that could be either positive or negative depending on the context you are using it, why you are using it, and the most important thing, what are you damaging with your actions? I was telling that it's very important for me, whatever thing you practice, just ask yourself 3 simple questions before any action you want to make it real in your life. And it's ask yourself the very first question. You should do it with this action, these words, these emotions, these thoughts. Am I damaging myself? I'm creating a situation where this thing is going to produce any negative things in my life. And if the answer is yes, if you damage yourself, this logic question would be don't do it. I mean, if you have poison in front of you and you are going to drink it in name of love of somebody else or in name of whatever, the natural thing is I don't drink poison because I love myself more than to the others. The next natural question is, am I damaging somebody else around the family, around the society? These actions, I know, of course, I don't know maybe the whole context and the whole things are going to happen, but so far I understand the things I'm going to start, the dreams I have in my life is going to damage the society, the humans, the animals, the plants, the environment, the nature, the universe. And if the answer for myself is yes, I'm going to damage, you are going and creating, we call it hucha, dense energy. And that fucha eventually is going to come back to you because everything has to be paid. What you give comes back. What you see comes back multiply. Your thoughts are reflected from the exterior as well. So this is the only important thing. Whatever you do, don't damage yourself, others, nature, or universe. And then you do whatever you want. It's what I teach my kids always. It's the only way of thinking you should have to do it. The rest, whatever you do, it's perfect.
Of course, that people get very confused when they think about, am I damaging someone else, because of our assumptions around what someone else isn't going to like, or what we call selfish or feel like might be selfish or whatnot. It's a hard question, I think, to answer honestly when we have been so conditioned, as you were saying, Harvey, with what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. It's a great question. And yet I think for many of the listeners, it might be something that is harder to actually see clearly. Like, just because someone is upset or might be upset or bothered or not like what I'm going to do doesn't mean, or what I'm going to say or whatever, doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be said or done, or that it is in fact harmful, right?
But is that wrong? Like, I mean, once again, and I might sound a bit cynic on this, but the fact that nature corrects itself, it implies that sometimes we feel guilt about it. Like, I mean, there is a cycle, and we believe in cycles and processes. So what about if by I mean, I have a flock of animals, like let's say chicken, and by killing the fox that are a threat to my chicken, am I doing something good or bad? So that's why I'm going. Is the interpretation. Probably you're doing something good. The chicken will be thinking that you are a hero, but the baby foxes are going to be thinking that you're the worst person ever in the whole universe. So you can be the most atrocious personality, but at the same time, you can be the best. So I don't know. I think that's why I'm always like, my problem with the Inca, and just going back to it, is that they were warriors. They were conquistadors. Yet at the same time, they also were very good providers. So how do the people felt about the king, the Inca king, the noble family, and the whole people behind of them? Like, do they love them and revere them because they were given enough food and plenty coca leaves to chew and enough chicha to drink? Or do they actually see these people as the worst people in the world? So the interpretation goes always about the acceptance of the global communication. In fact, going back to the group we just had, I got one of our group members who came to me and says, Harvey, I get too much big chew. It was rainy, and I need to confess, it was not like as I was expecting. I didn't have that like moment. And I said, well, we had 60 so people going with us together that day. Probably 70% of them were a little bit upset because it was rainy and foggy, and we are more collective than individual thinkers. So if you have 59 people thinking and that's not nice, then probably you're going to join that. There's experiments about that, but if it's instead the 60 people will be going and says, no matter what, this is perfect for us, then you will be feeling part of the collective thought. So same exact story goes with what's right and wrong. So if 10 people says, then this is good, even though you're doing something wrong, so then probably you will be portrayed like a good person. Am I being clear on that? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that really boggles my mind. Like, what about if what we are doing, what about if our actions are being misjudged by the way we think? Catholic Church, for instance, I mean, I've been raised Catholic, but yet I have so much to say about it. And I don't know if I'm even the one to discuss such a thing. Yet, still globalized, global mind thinking, it's like the best. I don't know what I'm just trying to say. So evil, good and bad, evil and good, I don't know. I guess it's the eternal fight for a reason on that. Why do you conceive in your own concepts of mind?
Yeah.
I think I would like to speak to you about 3 different truths. One truth, it's called Veritas, that comes from Latin, and it's the truth for the physical laws of the world. For instance, if I jump right now, I am on the 3rd floor. If I jump from my balcony, the truth is that I'm going to go down and never go up. So that is something definitive. My father used to say that every place you go, every society you go, the best way to respect the society is considering that you are getting into a place is not yours, it's not a place you are. Learn the morals first. If you like the morals of the place, you respect the morals over there. If you don't like it, you go somewhere else, because you are not going to pretend to change reality of certain societies, families, etc., etc., etc. So what I'm trying to do is that there are certain things that we know for sure. If I put a knife in the heart of somebody else, this is definitely something that I'm causing damage to that thing. Of course, could be to an animal to eat it, and in that case, the truth is going to change to a completely different level. And this is another important truth level. It's called Ateleia. And Ateleia comes from the Greek, and it means the truth that society tells you is truth. And here we have a very interesting thing. Society tells you that you cannot do things at certain age, because you should learn at certain age, start a new business at certain age, work your whole life for one company to be fidelity with that. That money is very bad for you because just the people with money are evil, whatever. That's another kind of reality that actually it's very important to Ateleia. We say aletear, we fly from that realities, because you go to the third and last ultimate reality and truth, which is called Emuna. Emuna comes from a very old word that means emanate, your own truth, your reality. If I do things from the convincement that I am doing things, that's why I started with myself, that I'm not, from my perspective, damaging anyone. I'm being clear, pure, honest, not with my ego desires, but with my real, pure soul. Whatever happens outside, it's none of my business. People think I'm doing well or not well, so this is the truth I actually will invite to think about it. When you are creating business, when you are creating families, relationships, start from the soul, the pure concept of love, because we have four words for love, but the ultimate love, which is agape love, as the Greek people call the love of compassion. So that's the way you can understand or start thinking about it. I'm damaging myself, other people, or the universe. It's from the completely unconditional love. I hope you get more or less what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think, and it comes back to this really deep awareness of that connection with self, right? Like when we're too much in our head and like, oh, what's this person going to think? Or what's society going to think? Or what does this mean? Like, this is always what gets us in trouble. Like if we would all just drop into ourselves, right, and learn how to do that and develop this really robust relationship with self, then we know on some level, because my belief anyway is that at our core, we are love, right? Without the stress, without the conditioning, without the thoughts, we are love and compassion. And if we get down to that level where we are at oneness, where we are in community with nature and God and one and ourselves, we know what's right. And it's okay if someone's upset. It's okay. But that's tough, right? That's a tough lesson for people to be okay with.
So don't forget though, Abby, that once we talk about the Incas, we're talking of a community rather than the individual mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also another premise that it has to be studied, since there is not a concept of even the nuclear family. Everybody else is part of the same community and everybody else is related to the same family. So I guess in that particular premise also changed the whole concept of how we interpret the relationship within the society itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I really liked about how you guys talked about this, though, was that there was this, and it goes back to kind of what you were saying, Danny, about the laws, right? Like the law, there is the law of gravity, is that we have to manage our human experience. We have to manage our egos. Because that's the instrument that we've been given to live in this time around. And yet being able to combine that with this larger perspective of but I don't even have the words for it, honestly, Danny, like what being able to combine it, well, being a soul in a human experience, I guess, right, is the best way to say that. And what I really liked about some of the stuff that you guys talked about was the way that the culture embodies all of that. Like, in other words, it doesn't deny that we have families and we have responsibility, we have gravity, we've got all these things. but somehow at its core, there's an understanding that we're part of something much, much bigger.
Well, that's for sure, I guess.
Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
should
yeah.
quote Barbie. Am I making myself clear?
Yes, exactly. Well, here's the deal. From what I always take, because I consider myself a bit of a rebel on what history tells about Incas. And I talk a lot about Incas because that's what my field of expertise is. Again, I learn and I study some other societies, yet the Incas are the ones, because I'm one, I believe myself one of them. So I truly kind of feel the responsibility of stand up for them. However, it is so critical to understand that we're seeing a different world, a different culture, a different society, starting on the premise that we are perhaps one of the largest civilizations ever made on the southern section of the equator. I mean, that thing changes it all, starting on the premises of that directionality of north, south, east, and west. And what you were just saying about, I mean, talking even about polarity, there is north and which is actually taken like positive, and there's a south taken as negative. And I think that this can be discussed with experts in fields. But I always said that there is a reason for why the needle, once you do like a compass yourself, you charge a needle with energy on your hair or in your clothes, you put it on top of a lift in water, and this will twist, they will spin till it finds the direction of the north. But there is a reason for why that magnetic pulse points to the north. Like it's positive. Am I right on that? I mean, are you following me? The thing is, then there is no such a thing like negative part on the other side. There is a positive and there is a neutral, because if there is going to be positive and negative, then they both are going to be pulling in each direction, and this needle, this metal thing is never going to spin. So one has to be neutral, therefore the thing spins till it's finds its own direction to the North Pole. Am I being clear on that? I don't know. I mean, the truth is then we've been told that the whole world works out of that premise, and the north is the actual guidance point. But what about if you have no connection, no knowledge, no interpretation of what the North Star is? The Southern Cross doesn't work the same as the North Star. And if you have that, you need to understand your cycles of rotation for crops. You need to understand your own seasons. You need to understand your own cosmovision. Everything that we try to discuss about the Incas, about their philosophy, about their respect, about their division of society, everything is mostly oriented to be studied with a Western mind. And again, probably not everything, but most of it. And sure enough, this ancient knowledge that we have in the shamans and the masters healers, I think that that's very important. And sadly, most scholars today are taking that as a sort of, I don't know, I mean, like they will not take it as real. They will take it as a mythology. Yet for us locals, that is real. And we need to bring the attention of those people to understand that. All of the awareness that we can create by using medicinal plants, which are probably psychotropic, but allows us to connect with different realms. To start with, I'm sorry, I know I'm being long, but this is very important. Modern societies in the Americas, number one, if you look for the DNA, they haven't developed the enzyme to process milk. And I believe since Europeans were consuming milk, and again, I'm just putting Europeans to refer to the old world, since Europeans were drinking milk for so many thousands of years, perhaps, they calcify their own bodies in a different level. So once we talk about the third eye, the intuition, we're talking of a society which is being harder, older, more factual, more logical versus the cultures in the Americas. I'm talking Incas, Mayans, Aztecs, Aches. I mean, all of the cultures, they were more connected with nature, probably because they are a version of diet. They eat a little more, I mean, less meat than what they did use than they ate on the Western world. They have been eating more like plants. So even if you think about the diets, the traditions, the customs, everything is different. And of course, allows a society to flourish in a different level. So even the connection with the spirits, the connection with nature, I'm always saying I'm a big defender of long hair usage on the voice because it allows humans to communicate better, to connect themselves better. I learned that the hair is like the antennas for our bodies. And if you cut it all, if you close your third eye, if you lose your traditions, then what's left is just a little body with no sense, with no soul, with no connection. So since we build more individual relationships about it's my family and then it's only me rather than the whole community, rather than the whole society, then everything changes. And I guess then I guess that's the awful truth of today's world, like we're just looking for me and whatever is me versus what it was in the Inca days about what's good for the community. As Danny has says those questions, it's all good for me, is it all good for the community, is it all good for nature? So then we can do things. Other than that, I think that we will always remain in the question, like, what do these ancient societies were attempting to do, Am I making myself clear? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Danny. I'm going to let you leap off of any part of that you want to speak to.
I think you mentioned something really important, a few key words. One is energy, and then you also mentioned love. Sounds like a cliche because all the philosophies, all the religions are actually mentioned that the way to do things in the correct way is about love. When I mentioned to you that we have 4 main principles, one of them is act with awareness. Actually, we could translate this word like act with love, but a real, open, clear love for everybody. Unfortunately, you cannot act with love if you don't go to the previous one, which I'm telling to you is the words. And if the words are not in the vibration of gratefulness, if you are not telling every morning, I'm so happy because I wake up one more day, I'm so happy because I can take a big bunch of air in my consciously for the first time in my day. Well, I'm happy for what I have. Could be a lot, could be a little bit, could be more. You can go for more, doesn't matter. But I am so grateful for what I have right now. So once you are in a grateful system, it's very normal and very logical act with love. But unfortunately, you cannot be grateful for life if you don't go to the previous one when we say feel with awareness. And this feeling with awareness is related with forgiveness. I mean, all things, and that's something you were talking about, we were discussing before. What's good, what's bad for this person, this could be good, and the other person that could be considered bad. It's just about actually take from the equation every other people and just forgive yourself. It's what I teach in the meditations. I forgive myself to choose to be born in that family. I forgive myself because I choose that father who created that things to me that even when I consider were negative in its own time was very important because teach me to grow, teach me to learn, teach me to be stronger, teach me to be more tolerant, whatever happens. Every action has a reaction, and every negative thing, if you see in the first view, could be positive at the end as well. But you start everything from the thinking again. When we say think consciously, we say I am. So if you learn to say I am love, I'm gratitude, I'm forgiveness, I am love, it is just a natural way to exist. It's like the relation we have with the trees. The trees, we know they provide us oxygen and we gave them carbon. We have a relationship. But the trees are not thinking about it. I'm here, how much oxygen I have to give them and how much carbon I have to give. It's a natural process. So love is a natural process as well, where you take the thinking out about what you are doing and you do with your heart. And in a very aware and conscious way, you don't have to even think about that you are doing good or bad. You are just acting in a natural way. How nature is, because humans are part of the nature. We dehumanize ourselves. I'm just making the word. We are not natural anymore. We are too related with non-natural things that actually we need to think how to be humans. But it's a natural way to exist. So that's, I think, a very important idea with the local philosophy we have here.
Yes. And I was going to bring that out from you as well, because you did several meditations and they were in those 3 stages. We can't go straight to love. And this is a part that, I talk about a lot on this podcast, this sort of spiritual numbing that people come to, and they get to this place where they just want to be loved and they just want to be one, and they go right there, and we want to heal the world. But I'm constantly beating this drum, like you cannot heal the world. And like, if you want to heal the world, heal yourself. That is the way to do that. Like, and it's really hard, to focus inward. And you gave this really simple way, this really simple meditation. I mean, simple, not easy, right? But the first step isn't to connect necessarily, with some source or some idea of love or whatever. The first step is to forgive yourself, and to forgive yourself for everything, as you said, everything. No, your words on the tour were, there is no one else to forgive, because people do what they're going to do. It has nothing to do with us. We take radical responsibility in a sense and say we forgive ourselves for placing ourselves in a situation where we were, able to be harmed. And if that means, even as a child, forgiving my soul for bringing myself into this, forgiving my ancestors, that, forgiving myself for the contract I created that enabled me to have this situation happen to me so that I could, learn this or that. Forgiveness first. And that then is what you're saying leads to being able to be grateful. And then that leads to love, which I think I just want to call that out for listeners, because I think it's a really beautiful and doable practice for people to begin to talk about. In fact, one of the things you talk about is at the end of the night, right? Like at the end of the day, forgiving yourself, going through and I want to forgive myself for everything, for the day. I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yes, it's just about be. I mean, I was telling to you that there is two ways to live life. There is the easy way and there is the hard mode. The easy way, it's too complicated for the mind. The easy way is just let things happen, trust in the universe, let things go, and be natural. Don't plan. If you have to do nothing, because actually everything is in perfect equilibrium, harmony, mathematically, physically, everything is perfect. So you have to go with the universe and learn how to navigate on the ocean of the universe. Plan B, easier for the mind, more complicated. It's plan, prepare yourself, learn about your purpose in life, and then create the meditations and do the healing process and go through a whole thing. At the end, both are the same, because it's the mind's making us believe that actually we are doing something, or the universe is doing something for us. It's just the completely understanding that the only thing that exists for real is the correct moment. And this is the correct moment for you, for Harvey, for me to be together. It was planned by the universe already. This is going to get the people that should be to be getting there, and some are going to learn a few things about it, and some of them maybe could eventually use it for a better understanding of life and a better quality of life. And that's it. Nothing exists. In our spiritual path, we have 8 stages. And once you get to the 8th stage, you discover that there is no path. There is no way. Everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect. But that, to understand for the mind, it's more complicated to understand with the heart.
Yeah. And there's a lot of pushback on that, because people say, oh, no, there's individual will. There's this, that, and the other. And how does that play in? And it's not to say that there is no, that you're helpless or, but yeah. So speak to that, like talk about nature in terms of your culture as well, because you referred to that in terms of the trees, and it also seems to fold into what you guys are talking about in terms of this, because I know it's very different. There's so much more respect, Yeah.
Quite interesting in our language, in what it's called Quechua nowadays, and it's called Runasimi originally, the language of the humans. You cannot say I am. The only thing you can say is I am being in this particular moment.
I am what in this moment? I am
being. I am existing.
I am being. I'm existing. Mm-hmm.
So there is no chance to say I am. So I couldn't tell you I am a healer. I am being a healer in this particular moment. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. Yesterday was something different. It's the correct moment and time and space that we are doing the thing. So I don't concern about what I was, and I'm not concerned about what I'm going to be. I'm just focusing being and existing together with the time, the space, the universe, all in this particular second.
And so how does that go for you? I ask this of a lot of my guests. I always say, so do you never react? Are you at one all the time? Are you always good with whatever is happening and grounded in that understanding?
That's the thing. I am too many possibilities. I am too many versions that I allow to be myself. If I am angry, I have fear. If I have pain, if I have envy, I allow things happen because I know, and that's the point to be in the moment. I'm not judging that I could be anything else, depending on the weather, depending on the planets, depending on my own thing, depending on other things going around there. In a particular moment, I could be anything. I just allow things happen. I mean, I don't blame myself because I respond in a bad manner to my wife, let's say in the morning, because this is another thing in the language. You cannot say I was, you say I was doing. So I can say I was being rude this morning with my wife because this particular thing. But I'm not anymore. That's gone. And at this particular moment, I am reflecting and speaking about what I was rude about, where this came from, because she told me this. Okay, let's take out her from the equation. This thing she told me, what opens in myself, what won't still, it's in myself from my traumas, from my past life, from my memories. And I understand completely that. And when I get to the point to understand, that's it. No more past. You are living in the present.
What I hear you saying is that when you're looking at that, it's not from a place of judgment or guilt or any of the things. It's like, I was rude. I was being rude in this moment. Okay, well, I've got that. That is truth for me. Let me look at it. What was that about? Oh, I figured this out. This is what this is about. And now it's gone. And now I release it.
And it's going to change every single second and every single minute. And more you learn to live with naturality, with the nature, with the universe flow, is less and less and less every time. Because you continue going with your mind. I mean, my mind is not in the argue at 7 a.m. in the morning. It's gone. I was being in certain way, but I don't care at this point now. I'm being here with you, talking and sharing. And this is the most important thing. This is what the language the ancestors here in this part of the world gave us is exist with awareness in every particular second. The past is past and the future are many possibilities. You can choose whatever you want, but for now, everything is perfect on the correct time and space.
Presence. Being in the present moment.
So whatever action you do does not define you as a person. You still being the same person, moving forwards, growing every time, every second, I guess.
So I've got a few more questions. They're not all necessarily related, but one of the things that was really cool was the architecture. And when we walked through Machu Picchu and Harvey, and so many other places, and you got very excited about how these things are built and what people think and how, they were smaller stones on the bottom and the genius with which some of these structures were put together and how that possibly could have happened all those very many years ago. Speak to that a little bit about the architecture.
Well, I'm still on the search, and I've been talking with Danny about, since he's like learning about the language, but I want to find the word that defines the Inca architecture. So far as I understand, there is no one word because I haven't learned that, but I bet there is a word that defines the whole Inca engineering and architecture, which is related to nature. So in my presentations, what I always love to do is a comparison with the Feng Shui and Chinese developed, or the Vastu architectural technology that the Indian people developed, in where they always line to build constructions oriented to the natural elements, so the wind is keeping everything fresh, so the light comes inside of the house. Also, like the energies and the chakras of the house are linked to different places where the kitchen is supposed to be versus where the dormitory is supposed to be. Incas did the same, but they actually built their constructions to mimic mountains around, and Machu Picchu is one of the best samples of that to me, not only because it's one of the most pristine cities preserved till today, but also because since the fixing and the restorations they developed and all of the roof structures and everything, you can really see how the buildings are linked to the mountains. And there's no one single alley, there's no one single street that it's in the same exactly line than the next one around. Every street changes angles because the buildings in that alley are matching to the line of the mountains around themselves. So that in my mind, it's part of a sacred site, and they were looking to embrace their constructions, their houses, to be like part of the mountain, but also to replicate what they believe is sacred. If the mountain is sacred, so the house is sacred as well. And we have that even brought up till today, in where all local houses, especially in the native communities, and even in Cusco City, they're still bringing up those little bulls figurines and the cross, the Catholic cross in between, as a symbol of locals bringing offerings to the house, because they are the ones that are keeping ourselves. Like, huge part of our lives are spent into those houses. So there is no way that our energy there's no doubt that our energies blend with it. It's part of it. So that's thinking about the actual sacredcy of it, the construction orientation. But then once you start looking on the engineering of the stone building, the stone masonry, it's just out of this world. All of the Inca construction is built on a sense of seismo resistance. And I guess we can just put that premise on the table because the evidence suggests it. So many earthquakes in between the Incas were there till today, yet those constructions are still on foot versus modern construction collapses not once, not twice, but several times. So once you think about that, what was about the building of the Incas which survived all of the earthquakes? So once we did research, people found, and there is a lot about the angle of the constructions being non-inclined but tilt inwards, so the wall will be resistance to the earthquakes. The niches is those open on block windows that we have made with a single purpose to work like expansion joints. The idea of the connection and interlocking of the stones, which allows the buildings to be more structurally resistant to the earthquake damages. So there is so much of that. Then again, sadly, is not well studied. I have myself a full presentation about Inca engineering and Inca architecture. Even take it from the idea of the terraces. I have a few images, but I'm not even sure that I can actually share that on this app. But however, the terraces that the Incas built most of the time follows the pattern of the mountain design. And I'm saying most of the time because sometimes it just come in the opposite way. And the reason for why they wanted to do that is because the mountain is either too solid or it's either too fragile. Don't forget the Andes are still a mountain configuration of dirt, but also many other places which is all rocky formations. So once you think about that, the Incas built terraces in places in where they mean to add a structure to the mountain, in where they mean to avoid landslides, in where they mean to preserve the whole place, not to collapse during earthquakes. And they later built houses, temples, and more terraces for farming above those terraces. So the engineering to me is fascinating. The land surveying about these people walking along the mountains way before the Incas and then going like, okay, this is the right place to do it. We cannot do it on the other mountain. We have to do it on this place because the configuration of the rocks is good enough. We have enough raw material for construct the place. I don't know. That to me fascinates me because yet historians will agree to say that the Incas built everything along the 1400s. There is no way in my mind that that happens just in 150 years. This has to be knowledge that comes from ancient days, and not just like the construction, but all together. I don't know.
Yeah, you can send me those pictures if you want, and we can drop them in after the fact. But what is your guys' theory on how these things were built? Because there's a lot of theory, just like the pyramids and all that kind of stuff, right? Like they didn't have the engineering they didn't have the machinery to move these boulders, that were massive, or to create these structures. What are your guys' belief about that? What do you think? How do you think it happened?
It's a very hard question to actually try to understand, because I'm sure Harvey as well, and I think we talk about that as well. You stand up in front of them and you think you know the knowledge, or what you read, or what the scholars has been investigating through years, and you look and even you are explaining to the people about how things are, and then immediately as a guide your mind it's telling to you, shut up, that's not the way, it must be something different, because we are still in that state that goes through many hypotheses and many things. What I think particularly is that if there is a word to define the Incas, is master. They always want to do things in the best possible way, whatever they do. Even if they are going to do and organize how the gaps in the soil, when you are going to seed things, how you are going to put them, either straight ahead because rains a lot and you need drainage, or horizontal because it's not going to be a rainy year and you have to put it in the correct way, or in certain degree, depending on the way of thinking of the Incas to organize, to build, to do things, is become masters. And the only way to become masters is practice, fail. And we always have the principle of masculine and feminine.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because you've got the Inca cross. So cover that while you're talking.
To master that, you need two things in your life. You need love, that for us is the masculine principle, and you need passion, which is the feminine. If you want to masterize anything you want to do in life, you have to do order, which is the masculine principle, and you need harmony. And you could knit things, and knit is the feminine principle, And the masculine principle is inventivity. You have to know, okay, this is my situation. I need this. How I go out from these things. So it's always thinking about how you can do things in a better way than yesterday, how you can organize things, how you can become a master. And I think this is a very important thing that happens with myself. You start as a healer, failing, making mistakes, and instead blaming yourself, and instead trying to think that you could do things in a best way, you think, I'm going to do the things in the best way right now, and every time I do, it's going to be better and better and better. So you become a master in whatever you want to be a master. The only thing, I think it's a very important concept for the Incas. Whatever you want to do in life, be a master of whatever you want to create.
And don't beat the hell out of yourself along the way. Right? Like you become a master by being, this is where I'm supposed to be in this moment. This mistake or whatever it is that happened is exactly what was supposed to happen. This is part of the process. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, to build those amazing pyramids or those buildings, right, it would have to be very methodical. Or to Harvey's point, there's the theory that aliens did it, right? I mean,
I love
and when
that.
we think about higher energy, right? Like that is
Well,
a theory. Like how did, like
yeah.
they have all these powers, all these forces.
Well, let me tell you, Dan, once you talk about the beginning of the Inca culture, as Danny says, perhaps one of the most accepted theories and legends, it implies that Manco Capac and Mama Oclio, the two children of the sun, were born on the waves of Titicaca Lake, and they came through the mountains to find the Inca city, which later on will be the capital of the Incas. And sure enough, the story says that Manco Capac was given a golden staff. That staff supposed to be plunged on the ground, and whenever the staff will be sinking without any problem, that will be an awareness that is the right place to create the Inca Empire. And that's how the legend says that Manco Capac and his wife walks across the Andes till they found the Valley of Cusco, where they finally plunged the staff and everything works out perfectly. That is staff. What is that? I mean, like, what kind of technology are we talking about with it? Is that something which is just like a cane? I know, and I always relate a story about the magic wand, Moses' cane, the king's scepter. Always there is certain symbolism about power, and perhaps this tool was something beyond of our comprehension. Today we just see and portray that as a little stick. Probably was a different kind of device. And I love Ancient Aliens. Come on, I mean, that's a series that it really changed everybody else's perspective. I'm still non full on that. I mean, believe me, I understand in the Incas, to the lack of a better interpretation, people love to say that it was built by aliens. I'm not really thinking like that. Incas were completely capable to do things, yet it's out of our brains. It's out of our comprehension. If you ask me about aliens or UFOs, I will even say that in my mind, that's the same people that we are now, just from a different dimension, from a different reality, from a different time. Yet there is still us. Somehow, we believe that the Incas were capable to move those boulders just by using human power, not even beast of burden. So then the numbers are the real answer to it. That's why I always fall in love about the Incan mathematics, because how can you achieve to make something that big with the numbers we believe Incas were at the time? So then you need a much longer period of time, which again falls into the conclusion I told you. There is no way that the Incas were the ones building this. It has to be something or somebody else way before the Incas. We would call those pre-Incas, to the lack of a better name. But I don't think somebody came with the spaceships and they just moved rocks. I always love to say they probably even levitate the rocks, but yet that has to be us, not the
Like
different
Incas with,
humankind, you know?
what are you talking about? Incas with special powers, Incas with mind control, Incas with
I will say more like better knowledge of nature. I have somebody related to me, one of my uncles, who is actually stonemason. He's been doing a lot of lovely works. And once you will discuss with somebody like him, because I know other stonemasons in the Sacred Valley still today, they will know exactly where to hit the stone in order to break it. I mean, if you talk this with somebody who is a publisher of books in New York, and you will tell him, cut this rock, the poor man is going to be like, oh, do you want me to do what? But if you have somebody who all of his life from a very small child was cutting rocks, he knows exactly where to hit the rock. he knows exactly which kind of rock material is going to work for it. So if you're not in that understanding, that's aliens' work. And the same exact story, if you find a child on the Amazon, a boy who has never seen a cell phone, and you take a photo and you show him right away the picture, that boy is going to think, man, this is an alien who just came around from outside the world. So I think it's just the lack of comprehension we have for something. It forces us to think that that's out of our world, that is out of our knowledge. But I always love to say, we gain knowledge and we lose knowledge. But all of that is knowledge that is still within us. It's coded in our air. It's coded in our constructions. It's coded in our minds. It's just that we don't remember how to do things. And that's why I always love to quote on my tours to Nikola Tesla. At one point in one of the interviews, he says that he never invented a thing. He just remembered how to do things because the knowledge is still there. So we just need to know, again, how to come out to that conclusion. And I think that's the very difficult part. How can we move rods? I mean, we just need enough brothers and sisters to help us doing it. We need good ropes and probably enough cocoa leaves to chew so we can actually get enough power to make it happen. How many times do they fail? Probably, as Danny says, they fail 200 times, yet they achieved to move one rock, and that gave the next people courage to do the next stage and the next stage. So the most powerful tool that we forget to talk about is time and resilience. That's, I think, the real secret about the Inca construction.
You have anything to add to that, Danny?
I just want to share with you what Dalai Lama said when he came here to the Andes a few years ago before COVID. I think was 2000. I don't know exactly 18 or 17, but he was here. And he has a meeting with some people we have here in a community not far from Cusco called the Queros, which are very good healers. And what the Dalai Lama said about this encountering is that actually what he saw in these people is that they are capable to move that amount of energy in 5 minutes, that all the people he know, they require 20 or 30 years of meditation every single morning and after a very huge discipline. So I think now taking the same concept that this time for building architecture and very megalithic cyclopean constructions around here, probably it is also related with how to move and how to work with energies. But this is something that we still need to discover in order to understand more and more things in the future.
Yeah. And, the topic of energy could be a whole podcast, obviously, in and of itself. Or many. But I wonder if you could speak to the idea of how the Incas think about, for example, masculine and feminine energy, because I know you talk about the Inca cross, and we mentioned it a little earlier, and there's a real value for both the masculine and the feminine, and also how that works inside of each one of us, our own masculine and feminine energy, like inside of us. And I wonder if you could just speak to that for a moment.
There are many interpretations, as mathematical, religious, philosophical interpretations of this hanging here, which is what we call the cross. But the one I like a lot, it's the one on the mathematical concept of if the feminine principle is a circle, and from the feminine come the masculine, and then you have the square. How do you get me a perfect, exactly same square than the circle area was? I mean, mathematically talking, how do you square the circle? And according with many, many mathematicians outside of the Andes, that's impossible. But according with our mathematicians who knows and related in not just geometry, but sacred geometry and measures and things of the stars and things like this, they went to the conclusion that actually when you do prospections and you do squares and circles inside and outside, you get to this point where you have 3 steps, and the major diagonal that you can see in the longer arm finally gives you a perfect balance where you can find the diagonal and the diameter, where love and passion, masculine and feminine, logic part of the brain and the emotional part of the brain, your own masculinity and femininity, it's in perfect balance. So this, for me, it's always a reminder that what the humans has been looking in the past, how to get power. And the only way to get power is get the perfect balance and harmony between your own masculine energy and your own feminine energy. That doesn't mean that you don't need or you cannot share with other people. It's perfectly valid to actually get a partner and share with a partner at that time. but without the necessity that somebody complements you. Actually, the pure concept, the pure idea is I am complete by myself. And when I allow to other people come to me, I have to take a little bit of myself out in order to allow somebody coming in my life. Anna, it's valid, it's beautiful, it's have a nice time. But when this person, this non-complement, but people you want to share with them wants to go, you say them bye-bye with all my love. I bless you in the future, and I recover my own complement, which is myself, and I live in a very perfect, beautiful way. So this is more or less where these ideas take us on.
Thank you for that.
Question though.
Well, go ahead, Harvey.
In the Inca culture, though, there is expression for singularity, which is called chulia. You're yourself, but that's not necessarily healthy or good, since we're mostly going on the dualistic relationships. Again, not a need to compliment, it's like probably somebody you mean to share, but in the Inca culture, so I understand, to be by yourself was not necessarily portrayed as a good thing. Once again, going about the acceptance of whether it's good or not. But I always learn about the concept of being chulia, in where you need to find your own janantin, which will balance you, complement you, and allows you to prosper, I guess. So what about that?
Yes, for Incas, they have a very interesting mathematical concept that could be considered impossible. And it's from 0 comes 1. 0 is the nothingness, the light which is not light, the void. And from 0 comes Chulia, which is 1. But it's applied just for the concept of Viracocha, Piruacucha, or the main concept of divinity, which is 1. And from 1 comes 2, because from this singularity, he's always hanging a left and a right thing. So many, actually just a few of the men and women from the Andes who become very, very high in terms of being sacred people, priests, priestess, or whatever you want to call them. Once you get to certain level of capacity to move the energies, you get to a certain point where these people used to be and still is celibs, and they don't have a couple because they are in charge of something different than just the, let's say, common life in the farms. And then the work gets out from the society, and then you are going to higher levels of energy management. That's more or less what I frame, I think, the question you have.
But is that what you guys were talking about when we went to that school and there was someone there who wasn't a boy or a girl? And you were saying that's a person
dancer.
That's a person who's very connected to a very higher energy. It looked
combines
like a
both.
boy in the dress.
It combines both. But don't forget that is more into the mythological realm. That's why we like to personificate it during our dances. I guess through the world's history, dances are either taken as a way for us to connect with the divine figures, in where if you use mask or you use different clothing and different attires in order to connect and blend with the divinity, so you allow the divinity to be part of that festivity. Or dances can also be ritualistic for what I guess marriages, relationships, mingle societies will be about. So there's always certain religious context about dancing rather than just releasing stress, I guess. Somehow this is into that realm in where that masculinity and femininity are combining one single person, which, as Danny says, we all need to master. So then you reach that, I guess, perfection. You reached a level higher, a higher level of consciousness. Then you can develop more. I think that's my understanding, because the reason for why that person dresses and dances like that is not because he is evolved. It's because he's representing what we are aiming to do, like we're aiming to be. So it's a representation of what is part of us, rather than that person himself will be the entity, you know. And the same exact story happens human with the ukukus, with the in other parties and celebrations, or the Emilia or the Wailaka, which are the names of those in the folklore that we have in every single dance. Yeah.
Okay. But that person lives like that, doesn't he?
No.
Or was he just representative of that in that dance?
Only on the dance, yes. And should not,
so, okay.
Once you go for the folklore studies, every group of dance is going to have one person like that,
Okay.
which in few group of dancers is going to be the first one, the beginner who is learning to be into that standard of the good dancers. In other dances I saw, it's like the ultimate stage. So you have to be like the freshman, you evolve to be a really good dancer, and then you transform into one of the leaders of the group. But once you get the higher level, then you are one of those.
Oh,
So
okay.
it depends. So different communities will embrace it in different ways, but that's again a personification of somebody rather than that person lives his life like that, you know?
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Well, I want to give you guys an opportunity. I know you do different things. One of them is doing tours and things like that. And then, of course, Danny, you've got your healing business. Is there anything that you want to share with people that you would like them to reach out to you for, whether it's a tour or whether it's healing, or share anything that is you'd like to share about what it is you do and your availability to do it with people?
Danny, you go first.
Well, I'm just building actually a website because Harvey told me to do that. We were talking about in the last trip we had with you and with all the people that came. Actually, Harvey was telling to me, so people is asking for a website and you're actually doing nothing much to do that. So I actually thought it was the call of the universe through Harvey to start building it. So I'm just building it, that one. And the idea is create some spiritual trips as well to Peru with a small group that comes for some healing or discovering of different aspects of their life. So far I have the Instagram and the Facebook to announce them, but when the website is done, so I can put it there. Something that is going to be built through these months, I guess.
So, and I can put your Facebook and your Instagram or your email or whatever you want in the show notes.
That is the way for now to contact.
Yeah, in the meantime, if they're interested in something like that. And then how about you, Harvey? Is there anything you'd like to share?
I'm just enjoying life right now. I'm really having a good time and a blessed being a tour guide. I told you before that I'm kind of like switching my life over to business, not business yet, but the law school. Should enough. I love this. This is what really hit my passion about is talking about the Inca history, discuss about his knowledge. And I also on the side, I'm always working with other little side projects. But right now, I think I'm going to help Danny on doing that. And I think that's a very important thing because it will allow my own dream to be going through, then the Inca culture will be preserved for future days. And there is no better way to keep the knowledge with shamans, with healers, with highly educated people like Danny who are really, really willing to give their time, their lives, and their whole passion for doing that as well. So I'll be Danny's backstage arrangement fellow. And again, I mean, if they want to talk to me anytime or they just want to get in touch with me, it's the same story, Instagram, Facebook, and my email. Other than that, just happy to be part of such a great society like the Incas were back on the day. Yeah.
And what would each of you like to leave the audience with? If there's one message or one thing that you want people to know, what would that be?
Oh, I think the best thing I learned from these years working with people, working with my own healing, working and trying to get very deep into the concept of philosophy and purpose of life and that kind of thing, is that believe in yourself. This is the key where everything starts. So if you believe in what you are, if you believe in what you pretend to build, if you believe for real, completely honest about that, what you are creating is exactly what you're enjoying and loving, with love, with passion, with power, just believe in yourself and let the universe work the little details, but just believe it and create it, and the universe will guide you through the correct path.
Lovely. Harvey?
I guess then it's related to what Danny says, but I'll say question everything, question the actual reality. And sure enough, once you question even yourself, you're going to get into that confidence. You're going to get into that knowledge about believing on yourself. But first of everything, you need to question everything we're being told, everything we've been, like educated with. And I think then we'll find our own truth. And once we find our own truth, we'll be ourselves to help the community. As you said, you can heal the world, you can help the world if you're not helping yourself. And for that, you need to know your inner self. You need to trust in yourself, like Danny says as well. That's what I'll say. Question everything.
I love that. And it's so Harvey.
Well,
It's so true. I mean, that's so true. We have to question what we're being told, what we're being,
Well, I
yeah,
hope that, then I think a podcast like this helps a lot of people to, to understand sometimes that we have the answer rather than we need the answer from somebody else. I guess that's all about intuition, isn't it? We just lost,
exactly right.
yeah, we just lost the connection to believe in what our minds tells us. There is an inner voice that tells us that this is right or wrong, and sometimes society will judge and tell us like, nope, that's not the right way. Yet probably that's the only way, and that's what we need to question ourselves. The truth is out there. Let's go find it, I guess.
Or in here, right?
That's what I
However
mean.
you look at it.
That's
Yeah,
what I mean.
exactly. Yeah, let's go find it. It's all in there. Yeah, let's find it. I love that. Yes, yes. Thank you guys so much for being on. I can't wait for this to get out and for people to hear it. I appreciate both of your time.
Thank you, Avi, for letting us be part of this. So thank you
Thank you
for
so much for the invitation. Thank you, Harvey, for everything you share. Always I learn from him. It's very nice to talk, and sometimes we go together for work, so it's a pleasure always. And thank you for coming here, for sharing, for learning, and for inviting us. So always will be a pleasure to be in touch.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was epic.